Okay, well, don't you think we should ask some questions to Russia as well?
I think that's probably a good idea.
And we have their phone number.
We
and
do.
We'll give Anton Shirva, the counsellor of the Embassy of Russia, of the Russian Federation in Canberra, a phone call. And hopefully he'll pick up the phone and we'll ask him some basic questions.
Where are we? That should be ringing through. There we go. I can't believe we get this one.
Hello?
Hello, is that Anton?
Yeah, that's me.
Hello, Anton. This is Paul Steinberg from the Right Stuff JAir 88 FM in Melbourne, and you're currently live on air with myself and my co-presenter.
Evening, Anton.
And my co-presenter Harry Graf.
Привет, как дела?
Good evening. Good evening, Paul. Good evening, Harry. Harry, you asked how I'm doing. I'm doing very well. Thank you very much. And I also would like to take this opportunity to extend my compliments to you and all JAir audience on the occasion of Australia Day.
That's very nice. Thank you very much.
Yes.
Very kind.
If only all Australians would celebrate it the way you do.
Yes. we thank you for wishing us a happy Australia Day. Is there a special Russian day? When is that? I wonder if...
Russian National Day is on the 12th of June.
12th of June. All right. We'll have to give you a call back on the 12th of June then.
Or we'll just rock up at the embassy and expect the drink.
Anton, you know why we're calling you? On behalf of ourselves and our listeners, we're interested to hear about a bit more about what's going on with the conflict or the tension rising in between the Belarus and the Ukraine border, and what we hear about in the mainstream media, and if there's any what the truth to it all is, what you can fill us in on from your point of view, from the Russian Federation's point of view. We would love to hear from you, please.
Thank you very much. We appreciate your interest in the Russian point of view of the situation. Well, first of all, I would like to say that what is going on, that the Western and Ukrainian media have become more active in speculation on so-called Russia's imminent invasion of Ukraine. This is how they portray it.
Yep.
But there is no Russian aggression at all. Russian troops, they are on the Russian territory. There is neither a decision nor an intention to go to war with Ukraine. And you see the way this situation is portrayed to the Australian public, for example, misses some crucial points. First of all, some historical background. Ukraine is a multi-ethnic country with a huge Russian and Russian-speaking population. After the West-supported coup in Kyiv in February 2014, the residents of Crimea and Donbas region chose not to live under new ultra-nationalistic, xenophobic government, threatening their cultural identity and even safety. As a result, Crimea reunited with Russia and Donbas declared independence. After that, Kyiv unleashed a civil war against them. And this is...
So you're talking about the Crimea issue from about 5 or 6 years, 2014, is that correct?
Yeah, 2013-14.
2014, yes. It's when the civil war in Donbas was, right?
Yes.
And there was some mechanism to settle this internal conflict in Ukraine. It was the Minsk arrangements of 2015. They provided for a negotiated special status for Donbas, making sure that the rights of the residents are respected. But ever since, Kyiv, in connivance with the West, was trying to get rid of Minsk arrangements and suppress Donbas by force.
If I may, sorry to do that. Sorry to do that to you, Anton. But if I may ask, Ukraine, as you say, is a multi-ethnic nation. It is a sovereign. It is a sovereign nation. Is there a large population? Although there's a large Russian-speaking population, are there a large number of Russian citizens that you're concerned for their safety? Is that why there's been this tension there?
Russia, yeah, sorry.
No, please continue.
Go on. Yeah, what I wanted to say that what Russia is worried of is the possibility of ethnic cleansing in the eastern part of the Ukraine. That is, this possibility Russia is really worried of. And so I mentioned this historical background, that is that the Australian public, when it hears about this situation, is not hearing of. And the other thing is that the Western countries, together with Ukrainian armed forces, are building up military activity there in the immediate proximity to the Russian borders. And these activities is scaling up. There are 10 military exercises are expected for this year.
Right.
Armed forces of Ukraine, they continue shelling the civil population in the east of the country. There are some figures from OSCE Special Monitoring Mission.
So would that be
fire violations?
So effectively, there's a civil war occurring in the Ukraine that the Russian Federation is now looking at stepping in at quelling. Is that what this is?
Well, concern for the safety of the Russian cultural people in Ukraine.
But again, it would be like.
Of course,
Go on, please.
Yeah.
Please.
Yeah, well, of course, Russia is worried about that, and the civil war, the active part of it, took part in 2014. But after that, there were Minsk arrangements. But as I've said, Kyiv is trying to get rid of Minsk arrangements and to suppress Donbass by force.
Right.
Yeah.
So there are multinational exercises going on in, I think you said, in parts of Ukraine. Is that something to do with also NATO coming on board potentially in the Ukraine as well?
Well, as I've just mentioned, that NATO countries, together with Ukrainian armed forces, are scaling up military exercises in the immediate proximity of the Russian Federation.
Right. Yeah. Right. And if I may ask, if this is all about a humanitarian concern, would petitioning, and please, I don't want to sort of get things out of hand, but my international diplomacy experience is virtually nil. But petitioning and going to the UN to actually put together a multinational peacekeeping force, which is generally what's done when there are humanitarian crises, instead of one nation just sort of taking it upon itself.
Well, there is Minsk process that I mentioned, and it has been endorsed by UN Security Council.
Right.
Very good. Okay.
Yeah.
And if just finally, I'd like to. I have a quick question, and that would be, if Russia could do anything for this situation not to continue, where there are forces being built up on both sides, military exercises on both sides of the border, what do you think the next step would be in the best interests of everybody?
Well, I think the stop of the aggressive propaganda against Russia, portraying Russia as aggressor, and also implementations of Minsk arrangement or Minsk process in relation to the situation in Donbass in the eastern Ukraine.
Very good. Okay, thank you very much for speaking to us tonight, Anton.
Thank you very much for having me tonight.
Thank you very much, Anton.
All the best.
Yeah.
The right stuff. Oh, I got the.
There you go.
Time.
You got the covered.
That was really interesting.
There was a couple of things in there that made me, as a little Red Sea pedestrian in Melbourne, Australia, the progeny of grandparents who.
Yes, go on.
The progeny
this is
of
where
grandparents
I was thinking too.
who managed to escape Ukraine before a big pogrom.
Do you remember they always said the Ukrainians?
Because,
but do you recall they always said that the Ukrainians were very violently against Jewish people?
Yeah, the Ukrainians, the Latvians.
But do you think it's still true today?
It's an Eastern European thing. Grab your torch and pitchforks.
Even
it's
in
a
Russia,
Jew.
but in Russia there were. That was Scottish.
It was Shrek.
Oh, was it?
Okay, so
But,
hold on. Before we
but
get off
even
on
in
it,
Russia, there were pogroms. So
exactly. But so let me just, before we get off on a tangent, I really want to make this point, and it's going to make a lot of people uncomfortable. We've just spoken to the counselor of the embassy to the ambassador in Russia, and he has basically said that the Russian military is stepping up on the border because they're concerned for the safety of cultural Russians living in Ukraine, which is a sovereign country and is the descendant of grandparents who managed to get out of Ukraine instead of becoming victims of pogroms, and grandparents who managed to survive the camps in Europe. It was the same argument that crazy little heroin addict German used to march into Austria.
Okay.
And I'm not buying it. I thank Anton for his time, if he's still listening, but
we might want to speak to him again. So
I would love
stay
to.
on
I would
good
love to
terms.
speak to him again, because if new information comes to light, but if the Russian line is we're gearing up to move into the Ukraine because we believe there's a humanitarian crisis there and we're going to stop that, you don't need 137,000 or 127,000 troops sitting on the border running exercises in the middle of winter if you're not trying to catch somebody else off guard. Belarus apparently
don't they have some leader that's
pro-Russian.
pro-Russian?
Yeah.
Yeah.
This whole thing about Crimea. Well, they decided they're more Russian than they were Crimean. It just doesn't ring true anymore. And I think for people to buy that, as I say, I would love to think that what we're getting is the truth, but I think what we're getting is a version of the truth that people would like to become true.
So,
I think,
and it would seem
I thank
from both
Vladimir
sides.
and
It would seem
Anton
that,
for their time. I think there's a lot of propaganda.
wouldn't you say that
on
from
both
both sides? Wouldn't you say that they're also both looking for a de-escalation? It sounded to me like at the end of the day, they're both looking for a de-escalation.
Well, I think Ukraine's looking for a de-escalation because Ukraine knows it's going to get its butt handed to it on a platter if the Russians decide to actually move in militarily.
But maybe they're right. They've got all these military exercises going on with the multinational forces there.
Well, the Russians. Well,
no, the
Russians are claiming the
Ukrainians.
Ukrainians are.
Yeah, that's right.
Well,
Maybe
if you've
that's
amassed
true.
127,000 troops, is it 127? Let's call it around about 130,000 troops, and you've set up your field hospitals, and you've got
He certainly wasn't denying it.
and you've got your ICBM, your mobile ICBM launchers, and your tanks and everything ready to go. You've got planes already sitting in Belarus ready to take off. You've got ships sitting in the Black Sea, whichever sea it is, ready to start shooting rockets and whatever else.
but it's been
And
like
then
that
you
forever.
expect the country that you're doing this right next door to not to go, hey, fellas, we could use a little bit of help because we're kind of effed here if something actually happens.
Yeah. Have we got a groggy moment? Oh my God, do we need a groggy moment after that?